What's up, everybody? This is Sam Taggart with the D2D podcast, and today I'm doing this one by myself. Why? Because it's been a minute since I've just given you guys some fire stuff, me alone. A lot of times I do these interviews, and they're amazing, and I've met so many amazing people. So if you haven't listened to the last few episodes, they've been awesome. So a couple things that I just wanted to bring up before I dive into what I wanted to talk about today was we have the National Knocking League that starts June 13th, where we are doing a pest, a solar, and a roofing division. And if you go to our website under the streets, under services, the streets, under NKL, you can register a team of 5. So let's talk about competitions for a second. Last year we ran the National Knocking League, and it was unbelievable to watch. You know, we had 3 divisions as well, and to see the average person increase by about 300%, you know, it's like you go to a normal job and say, hey, can I get a 300% return or like a raise? And nobody's going to give that to you. And, you know, I know that a lot of companies out there run competitions or do incentives, but a lot of times as a salesperson, you're like, well, why would I buy into that? Or like, why, like, ooh, it's just a shirt. I don't even care for the little hat they're giving away or whatever. But those that can take competition serious this year and say, hey, I'm going to treat this like a job, and it'd be embarrassing, or a sport, and it'd be embarrassing if I didn't win this. You know, it's like if you looked at, I don't know, the NBA, and you had a team that was just always losing, and you were that player on that team, it's like, okay, I'm frustrated. I either want to switch teams, or I just like, you know, they're playing the sport, not like they've been paid millions of dollars. They don't care at that point about the money. It's like LeBron James isn't like, oh, I'm just like, you know, going to coast it out and keep taking my checks. It's like, no, I'm trying to find a winning team. I'm trying to put this thing together to win championships. And I think a lot of times as salespeople, we treat this sales environment like a job to where you're going to make as much as your mental capacity for earnings is. And bringing awareness to like, what's your standard of excellence for income? Some of you might be, it's 25 grand. Some of you guys might be, it's 100 grand. Some of you guys might be, it's 200 grand. But be cautious of where you've cemented in this, like, this mental capacity of earnings, because what ends up happening is your sales actions, like subconsciously, you're going to only do the amount of work that's going to hit where you subconsciously are okay in complacent making. So remember this, especially if this is your first year. If you're a first year rep, like you might have come from making $20 an hour or $10 an hour or whatever you're making, and you don't understand, or you haven't realized you can, in this industry, you can make $500,000 to $1 million. And I don't care what you're listening to, because I know people have made 7 figures in every one of these industries that I help. Selling, just in sales. But if I'm coming from a position where I was making $10 an hour, I might be stoked that I'm making $20 an hour despite I have the opportunity to make thousands an hour. And I think this is probably one of the biggest struggles, is it's not our sales ability. It's not like our closing lines, objection handling. It has to do with our own mental awareness of where we've limited ourselves. And so what a competition does is it just says, hey, I'm just trying to beat whoever I'm pacing with. And a lot of times within your company, you don't have tons of awesome people to pace with. You're like, well, what do I do if I'm like the guy that's setting the pace? And that's where things get boring or frustrating. Is, you know, I've been in part of organizations where it's like, man, I'm the only guy that's really thrown down. Or I've been part of teams where it's like, gosh, like, is anybody else going to choose to work today? Like, am I the only one taking this serious? And that's a sucky place to be, is when your environment is not calling for the greatest version of you and you know you have more in your tank. I promise you, that's a sucky place to be. I've been there. I was the number 8 sales rep at a company, and I felt like, I was like, yeah, I'm on top of the world. And I found out that there was like people that did 3 times what I did. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not that cool. They just weren't in my world. They weren't in my environment. I thought I was really cool. This was back in, 2011 or whatever. And I really came to gain appreciation for, good cultures, good sales managers, good companies that invest a lot of money into swag, into competitions, into their podcasts, into their trainings, because some companies out there, they just don't invest in that. And if you're a company owner that's just like, I don't see that, I just want to hire guys, send them out there and hope they make me money, and not really pour into sales marketing is what we call it, like building out your sales operations, culture, motivation, training, all the competitions and such. then like, it's frustrating to see that. And I get like what it's like starting up as a small business, and I get like the limitations and resources, but like my challenge to everyone out there is, if you're a leader or company owner, you invest more into competitions, like making this a fun culture where it brings the ego and it brings the sport to the game. If you're a sales rep, find opportunities to contribute to that, and find opportunities to play the game and say, hey, I'm in. Like, what do I need to do to make this fun? And smash talk, and like make this a sport, and buy into it so it doesn't seem awkward where it's like, hey, we ran this competition, but nobody even effing cared. So one of the things that tip for like how to sell big numbers. Like my biggest years were when I was playing in the Cup or the Madness. My biggest week ever was the final week. We won the championship of the Cup, which is a whole season long tournament within Vivint. And I remember that very last day, there was 20 sales reps left. It was the end of August, and our team did 120 deals that day. And between 20 dudes, 120 deals in a day is like, no, we did 50 in a day. I was like, we did 120 that week. We did 50 in a day on Saturday. And I did like 7, another dude like 6, another dude 6, another dude 5. Like, it was like stupid. And, and I look back and I'm like, well, I don't even know what we won. I don't even care, but I know that I hit my biggest week ever. I did 29 that week. I did 7 in a Saturday, and I was like stoked out of my mind. But I was like, if there weren't that competition and it wasn't a big deal for me to go win the Cup, then I probably would have made it, $5,000 or $10,000 or $30,000 less. Like, how much more money would have I left on the table had I not played that game? And I could give you story after story after story, like where that has made an extra 50 to 100, 200. I look at these guys that just won the grit tournament. I think each one of them probably made 50 to 70 grand in commissions in that week. And, we facilitated this 2-on-2. And I was like, man, they would have never been motivated just naturally on a freaking random week in April to go sell. Between the two of them, you had Luke Ward and Jeff that did 29 deals between two of them, and then Blake and Sully, they did 32 deals between two of them in solar. And it's like, you don't just wake up on a Tuesday and you're like, I'm going to go sell 5 today. It's really important to say, okay, there's a facilitated space. And then I look at all the other teams of 2 that played in our grit tournament, and I'm like, geez, like, props to you guys. Props to the ones that submitted their scores, played the game, and just watched their increase. So the National Knocking League is designed for those that really want to push themselves to a new level and start to expose themselves to maybe some top performers that, might inspire you to sell at a higher level and stop being complacent selling your. I had a guy call me yesterday about DDD University, and he was talking about pest control, and he's like, well, I don't have time and I don't need this, and I'm not going to say names or companies, and I listened to my sales guy pitch this guy on our training platform, and he's like, I just don't have time. He's like, I wake up early, and I'm out there, and I was like, and then my guy's like, well, what's early? He's like 7. And I just kind of laugh, and Brendan, my sales guy, laughs, and he's like, yeah, I get up at 7, and I'm on the door soon, and just working hard. And then Brendan asks a simple question. He's like, well, how many are you selling? He's like, I'm doing like 6 a week, and I'm like, this cat sounded like he's so busy, he's so hustling, he has no time to train. And he's like, well, I don't know if I need any of this because I'm part of a big culture, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him and I was like Brendan, I was like, I hope he says what I would say. I was like, 1, 7's not early. 2, when somebody says I don't have time to train. And 3, when you're doing 6 a week, my question to you is like, why do you feel like you're on top of the world, like you don't need anything? And maybe it's just the simple culture where that's what's normal. Like, I was like, man, okay, if he's doing 6 a week and everybody says that he should be doing 6 a week in pest control, congrats, dude. Like, but I know good dudes that do on average 15 a day. And I'm like, what the freak? Like, why are you so happy with 6 a week? And why do you think you don't have time to train? Because there's probably a gap here between the guy that's doing 15 a day every day and you're doing 6 a week. And it's crazy to see the mentality that some of these salespeople have when they justify why they're doing 6 a week. And I'm like, dude, it sounds like you're working your butt off because you don't have time for anything. So if I'm working my butt off and I don't have time for anything, I better be throwing down like massive amounts of numbers because I'm working the same amount of time, putting all the energy that I say that I'm putting in, yet only getting 6 a week. And I'm sitting there going, man, like, what things need to change for that guy? And if that's you right now and you're like, man, well, tell me how to get more than 6 a week. The biggest thing that I would say to that would simply be play a game. Make it fun. Play it like I'm not sitting there just trying to get my 6 a week and I'm working my butt off. I'm like, no, I'm going to turn this into who do I need to compete against? And so pick the dude that's like 2 or 3 rows above you in the office as far as sales numbers, and say, this week I'm going to pass his sales numbers up. Maybe just play that game. Or, I remember I came in my very first year in 2008 and I was the bottom of the totem pole because came in halfway through the summer. So I was like, that was the game I played, is how fast can I move myself up the ranks, knowing that I came in late and everybody had a head start. So I was like, well, let me try to beat them. And those that have a competitive attitude in this job are going to make more money, I promise. So anyway, not to talk too much about competition, but I think for any owner listening, hopefully that helps you get these guys to buy into that. And then for any rep, I'm telling you, it's for your own good. So again, you can go play in our tournaments, teams of 5. We're capping it out, so first come, first serve. It'll probably sell out. So just go to our website, go under services, the streets, Nashville Knocking League, and get yourself a team registered. Registration ends at May 30th. So make sure to get this and get that soon as you hear this, running out of time. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is our ERC Credit, which is really actually pretty dope. So this is for the business owners out there that in 2020 or 2021 or both had W-2 employees. So W-2 employee would be not your sales guys on 1099, just to clarify. And so if you're like, well, I'm a sales rep listening to this, can I get this? No, it's like you had to have W-2 employees. And what happens is, it's just like the PPP money, how it got forgiven. There's free money that the government owes you. And so in this podcast, I'm going to put a link, and you can go register where they owe you money if you saw any dip in any quarter of revenue during COVID. And I'm like, well, let me just try it. So, I've had over 50 people I've sent this to just because I'm like, man, if I can help them make a couple grand or thousands and hundreds of thousands. Well, I just started saying, hey, I want to help out my community know about this. Because a lot of people are like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, it's worth a shot. What happened is I submitted and I thought I only got 71 grand. I was like, 71 grand, holy crap. That's on a day when you reach into your coat pocket and you're like, oh man, when did this $100 bill come out of here? And so for me, it was like, how do you get free money? And I was like, let me submit. So then they amended it and I ended up getting $287,000. I was like, whoa, $287,000. That's more than a freaking $100 pocket. And then I started sending it to friends, and I had a guy get 30 grand, and then I had a guy get 1.3 million bucks. Or no, 1.9 million bucks. And I was like, whoa, obviously bigger business. But to get a $1.9 million check just because I sent them a link and I was like, hey, go do this. That's life changing. That's I wasn't going to have that. You could do a lot of things with $2 million. So if you're a business owner, go to my link that I put and submit for that. And it takes you 10 minutes. And don't leave all this money on the table because somebody else is either going to get it or you're going to get it. So it's running out quick. I don't know how much longer or how much funds they have left allocated from the government. But I'm like, if they're allocating it and other people are getting it, might as well. So that being said, other thing I want to talk about. So I know I'm just kind of jumping around. If you're out there selling, okay, so this is for the sales guy now. And like I said, I'm going on random things. But I was thinking about just how often people get discouraged at this point in the year. Meaning you've been out there for a month, maybe around that, a couple weeks. Let's talk about the real spot where you're at, end of May, and where most people go. This is the most critical, and this is really actually why I wanted to jump on this podcast. So now we're getting to the meat and potatoes. Sorry, I took the first 12 minutes to who knows what. So I want you to ask yourself, really, and I don't care what year you've been selling. I don't care if this is your 10th year or this is your first year. I want you to ask yourself, where am I, associated to this job? Is this oh my gosh, I can't wait till the end of the summer? Is this this is a one summer and done? This is my last year. This is my career. This is part of a plan. I want you to check in right now before I kind of go into like what I want to talk about, and just say like, where are you? And maybe ask yourself, how do I feel about the manager? How do I feel about the trainer? How do I feel about the company? How do I feel about the industry? You know, like really just check in. Because a lot of times you start to question things right now. You're like, dude, what did I sign up for? Like, what is this? And, you know, some of you guys might be in offices that are like a bunch of bros that do slap bellies and hit ping pong balls and throw darts at each other. And some of you guys might be year round, and some of you guys might have no office. Some of you guys might be, I don't know, whatever you're doing. I want you to just check in with those questions. So I want you to ask yourself, realistically, and you don't have to lie to anybody. Like, this isn't like put on a show. This isn't like, oh, you know, it's like, no, you're listening to this. It's me and you. It's like me and you. And just say, like, where am I at? Where am I at with this job? Do I like it? Is it hard? Am I just, like, doing it because my friend invited me to do it? Do I like the industry? Do I like the company? Do I like the manager? Do I like the trainer? And then ask yourself, how much of this is coming from, okay, so now, okay, this is where I want to take you through this journey. So you find out where you are, because if I can't meet you where you are, then it's like, none of this stuff that I'm going to talk about makes sense. So I'm going to meet you where you are. Wherever you are, some of you might be this stoked in your life, making more money than you've ever made. Some of you guys might be miserable as hell. Some of you guys might be neutral. Like, I don't care. Wherever you are, I'm going to meet you there. So, ask yourself now, what stories have you built up thus far that are limiting you from what's going to happen today or tomorrow? So if you find yourself where you are, and now you start to say, okay, what of these things have been built up, or relationships to my manager, trainer, company, industry, or maybe my success so far this year, I want you to now ask yourself, what stories have I built up that are limiting my results today or tomorrow? Ask yourself that question. So now, I want you to say, how much of this is the story and how much of this is fact? Because I use the word story is because we live our lives operating from lenses. And very, very, very few times in our lives do we allow ourselves to look at things from other lenses. Meaning, we see everything from our point of view. Like, oh, the area sucks. Oh, the manager sucks. Oh, if I was in a different industry, or if I had a different pay scale, I'd sell more. Whatever that is. What I want to challenge you is start looking at it from different lenses. And say, is anyone stopping you from selling 4 times today what you sold yesterday? Because that's the facts, right? So you're like, okay, products were priced too high, there's too much competition. Okay, like you can keep telling yourself these stories, and you can keep saying, oh, well, if I had more training, or if I had more this, or my da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, those are all stories, because the reality is, if you had to look at things from a different lens, let's say it's my lens, and I'm sitting there in your car, and we're like driving out to area today, and you're like, okay, what is the facts? What's reality? Are there customers that need your service? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, cool. Do you have unlimited neighborhoods and homes and people you probably could work through today to find a reasonable amount of sales? Yes, facts. Have you sold one? Meaning, has somebody bought and agreed to the price and product that you're pitching? Like, it is not an impossible product. It's like other people are buying around the same price range. And at the end of the day, do you get behind the company and the product? And so sometimes I went through this, especially in alarms. My second year, I was rocked. It was 2 years. It was my second year. And I was like, are these things even good? Like, seriously. Like, I was like, am I even selling? Like, would anybody even use this? And I went through this, like, you know, and I've had that in solar. I've had that. I was like, man, are we even helping the planner? It was just like a bunch of bull crap. You know, where I watch people in any industry, I don't care what you're selling, is you might go through like this like lack of testimony in whatever you're selling. So you're like, okay. I started watching a bunch of videos about how alarms had changed people's lives, saved people's lives, to the point where yesterday, like this is interesting. Yesterday, I have a friend and she works in the medical field, and she had to operate on a person that fell and hit his chin and couldn't get up, and he was found 2 days later with a broken spine. And so you're like, well, if he had a medical pendant, that probably would have helped avoid a lot of these issues that now he's probably going to have, because it took 2 days. And so, I think of stories like yesterday, and I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, there's a lot of people who could use this. This could save that guy's life. And if I saved one life, which I did, I know I did, then all of the sales that I get is totally worth it. And I had to completely change my whole paradigm around selling. And then I had to do that around my own sales numbers. I'm like, well, I'm doing one a day. And I was like, one a day is great. And that's what I was doing when I first started. And then and the story was that was enough. So I told myself, well, I'm making enough. I'm selling enough. I'm hitting my goal. Why would I need to sell more? And I started to believe this story. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Does that story serve me? I'm like, well, why don't I sell 2 a day? And people are like, yeah, I mean, you could do that. There are people that do that. I'm like, oh, there are? Okay, cool. I'll do that. So I start doing 2 a day. And I was like, well, is that enough? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. I'm figuring it out. And just like that, I made a jump from doing, I remember I was doing like 6, 7 a week, and then all of a sudden I was doing 10, 12 a week, like overnight. Like it wasn't like oh wow. And then I remember it was my 3rd year, because I then thought 12, 10, as long as I hit double digits, I'm good. And that was like where I'd mentally allowed myself to get to. That was the story I was telling me. Hey, double digits, man, I'm in the top like 5%, like I'm killing it. And then again, I was like, wait, let me challenge that. So I was like, okay, maybe I really want to hit 20. I'm going to really try to hit 20, which would be 2 times again. And so I just kept pushing for that 20 mark. And then once I hit 20, I called my regional. I was like, hey, dude, do I get a 20 club shirt? And he's like, no, we don't have that. And I was like, what? I thought like you get this cool thing when you get 20 in a week. And I was like so excited. And he's like, well, you made a lot more money. You can buy your own shirt. And I was like, oh. And then he said something that hit me super hard. And I want to reiterate this to you guys. Is do 20 every week, as he says. And I was like, really? No, there's no way. Like, I freaking just like Hail Married this thing and it worked. And he goes, well, I think you're capable of doing it every week. What a good mentor in this moment. So shout out to Mendez. But like, I was like, wow, maybe you're right. And so I was like, maybe I could do this much every week. And I changed the story. Like, the story was, there's no way. I was like, no, that's a story. That's not like a fact. That's just a story. And I was like, wait a minute. There is a way. Like, I just did it. Why would there not be a way to do it every week? Why did I need to make this a one-time thing? And that's what a lot of sales guys do, is they're like, oh, I'm going to make this a one-time thing. I had a fluke day. I had a big day. Cool. It's like, well, why don't you sell that every day? Why don't you sell that every week? Well, man, the amount of work or time or, everything fell in line. The stars aligned. It was great. And I'm like, you can create that every day. Like, there are people that do that. And so for the next 8 weeks, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks, I can't remember exact, but I did 20 in a row. Like over 20, 22, 24, 21, 20, like just boom, boom. And I was like, oh, holy crap, I did it. Somebody just needed to give me permission to tell me I was telling myself, I'm an Irish man. I was telling myself that I was like, I couldn't do it. And so if you're listening to this, I hope that this story resonates, because I think a lot of times, 1, about the product, and I went through that. 2, about the company, went through that. It's always easy to get tempted to get recruited to different industries and different companies. But guys, I'm telling you, the grass is green where you water it. I know that sounds so cliche, but it's like, you want that grass to grow, start watering it right now, where you are, where you're selling, what you're selling. Stop looking over the fence and start saying, I'm committed to this year. Head down, go do that. And I can't reiterate that enough. If you're always peeking and looking at other things and this and that, and distracted, side hustle this and whatever, you're not going to be a top performer. Put your freaking head down, and you can make more money than you've ever made in your life. I guarantee you, if you just start taking this job serious. I guarantee you. And that's why I like, in this spot right now, you're sitting there, it's May. You've got the best months to come of the year. Most daylight, people are home, a lot of transitions, and lots of opportunity. And I hope that anyone listening has been already committed to listening to 20-something minutes of this, but 2, is committed to the job and says, I'm going to make myself, my family, my partner, Sam, whoever, my company proud to say I gave it like 110%. Because I keep getting people hitting me up, and I'm just like, man, 6 a week, like, and you're just complacent. You're like too shy to go pay for training for yourself because you think you got it. You think you obviously have enough. Or you're too shy to like go compete, or you're too shy to, and I'm just like, let's help change the story, guys. And yeah, I just want to see everybody win and do it the right way. And I appreciate you guys listening to these podcasts. Like, I know we've done a lot, and I'm excited to kind of continue to develop into whatever this develops into, and I hope you guys are along for the ride and the journey. So I need to do more of these where I just rant. I'm sitting in my backyard, listening to the birds, looking at the mountains. It's just a beautiful view, beautiful day to be alive, everybody. Hope I could help you guys expand your life and expand the lives you lead. So peace out.